Hi, everyone. I am Gregory Q. Jenkins, the founder and CEO of Quintasia Studios, and this is the Quintasia Podcast. Welcome back. We are happy that we have another returning guest to our podcast today. You may remember her. I'm happy to continue our conversation with the wonderful and incredible, stupendous Maylen Calienes of the Latino Filmmakers Network. Welcome. How are you?
Hey, Gregory. Nice to be back. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you I know that you've been a very busy person as of late. So thank you for making some time to come back and speak with us. I want to dive right into today's discussion because I think we've got some juicy topics to talk about. So by way of setup for our audience, I watched Father of the Bride with Andy Garcia. And let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen it, see it. It's, and I know what people are thinking about remakes and things like that. And I'm kind of with you on the remakes, but this one, no, you should see this one. This one, I think this was done very well. I think this was done very smartly. It's a story about a Latino family, and they just didn't take the same characters and put, Latino actors in them. I mean, they made it a Latino story. And, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And that's going to be part of our discussion today. But before we get there, I want to talk about this pandemic that we are still.
Oh, wow. That we're all still, everybody. Kind of like wondering what's up with this pandemic. And, it's like we're in limbo and we're still going through therapy with it.
It seems like it has just changed all of us. It's just, we're just.
No, I'm telling you, you're not a human if the pandemic did not affect you in some way, at least mentally, right?
Yes.
Because it was just like something different. It's not like, that regular pace of life. This is something that impacted everybody, not only in the United States, but I'm pretty sure in the whole entire world. And there's other countries that are worse off than we are when it comes to a lot of the resources that we have here, right? Vaccinations and things like that. So it's a very impactful situation that will forever be part of history. So we're part of history with it.
And it seemed to also expose, I don't want to go too far down into this depressing, but it definitely has impacted us. It seemed to expose like a very real isolation that's in us, and so many, you see like mental health crisis soaring during the pandemic, and it's just so. It's a funny kind of confluence of events, and funny is not the right word, but we have all this technology, but yet we seem to feel more isolated from each other than ever before. And somehow the pandemic seemed to heighten that. And you just saw, depression and other mental health issues, soar.
Well, I guess that this is the time to have more podcasts, right? So we can really just talk more to one another and have more conversations and connections and things like that, right? And kind of like slowly get back into the norm of if we ever do, kind of like of what it was, But I know what you're talking about, Gregory, because I myself, prior to the pandemic, I was traveling a lot with films and going to film festivals and networking stuff and things like that. And I'm a person that, would be very active in that sense. And then when we've kind of like now come to back like a little bit of that normalcy and stuff like that, I even found myself, who's a person that talks to people and this and that, like just like with like a block in front of me sometimes, that it's just like kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is too overwhelming for me, or like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I want to do this right now. It's like, and I thought that to be very, very interesting. I think my first big event back from like everything was South by Southwest, and when I went there, it was, and especially South by Southwest, that's like an explosion of a film festival. I mean, you have so much going on there, and there's so many people, and it was just, to me, it was a bit overwhelming, kind of like getting back into that whole entire trend. So if the people that know me personally and know how I am, that I'm out there, I'm sociable and this and that, me going through that personally, I can't even imagine everybody else, like everything that we've gone through psychologically without even realizing it. Because of the pandemic and the anxiety that this pandemic has brought us all, and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. And, for me, I didn't start traveling again until this year. The first place that I was going to go was going to be Sundance. And we had talked about that.
I know how that felt.
and that was going to be my first Sundance, in person. Yeah. And it wound up being my first Sundance virtually. But when I understand why they had to do it, but when they canceled the in-person events, it's like it's a big, I was like, I moved my schedule and I'd move things around so I could be there. And that was me now saying, okay, I'm ready to get back into the world. Well, it turned out that in terms of festivals, it was really this past couple of weeks, Tribeca, what turned out to be really where I think I went out full-fledged. And I participated a lot during Tribeca. And it took a lot of that first day. I missed the opening day with J-Lo's film. I missed it. So I wasn't feeling well. And plus, probably a little bit of anxiety too.
Yeah.
It was
actually, our first event back, because we were, of course, prepping for Sundance. We were going to be there in person. And then everything changed last minute. And we had to create this whole entire virtual event. But I think that prior to us doing Sundance, at the beginning of this year, 2022, the first event back was our event in New York. The mixer we had with Crew Me Up in New York. That was our first in-person event, which was funny because our last in-person event was in New York, right? So to us, it was like an honor to go back to New York and kind of like, we didn't have we make sure that it wasn't like a huge capacity and this and that. And we had a great turnout. And I think you probably, I think you passed by. We had, people with masks on and this and that. So that was, kind of like slowly going into things little by little, but yeah, that was our first one back. And then because of the after effect of what happened with Sundance, the last minute canceling and this and that, we've kind of been trying to plan like another in-person thing, but at least here in California, things have been up and down and up and down. And like locations, some locations that we have even approached, they're not ready to open up 100% to do like events and things like that. Right. So yeah, we've been kind of like playing it by ear in the meantime, working on other stuff to continue to, to continue to move the organization forward with other great stuff that we want to do for the Latino community, underrepresented storytellers, and all that stuff.
Well, it's interesting, and we'll pivot slightly here. During this pandemic, we know that theater goers, the theaters were hit really hard, and I've seen now several reports, and I'm just wondering. I know that we've talked about it a bit, but does Hollywood know and acknowledge that it was people of color that kept the theaters alive during we kept coming to the movie theaters. We ventured out. We took the risk. Do you think Hollywood recognizes that?
I mean, if they do, they don't pay much attention to it, I would think, and they do at the same time. But I can tell you my thoughts behind that as well. I was kind of worried during the pandemic that, because the pandemic became a priority for everybody, including Hollywood, trying to make sure how everybody got back to working safely and all that stuff. So I was worried that because of all of that Hollywood would forget, the importance of diversity and inclusion, which is what we fight for, right? What we educate people on and stuff like that, and what we want to improve. Then, of course, the whole George Floyd situation happened, right? And that kind of brought diversity back in the forefront. And that was number one, again, most especially for the African-American community, right? And then, there were situations, for example, like one of the first films to go back to theaters when they opened up that, and theaters were still at capacity, like you couldn't fill up theaters still, right? For example, was In the Heights, right? So In the Heights had like the situation with In the Heights was they went back to theaters, but it also opened up streaming, right? It didn't do well in theaters, and that was put all over the the news, the trades and stuff. Oh, it didn't, which of course, when you hear something like that, it makes you sad because it affects your community. In the Heights being a Lin-Manuel Miranda, production, and, John Chu's the director, and the majority of the cast, some crew, you have Latinos, involved and stuff like that. For us, it should be a celebration, right? That we have a movie out there that's opening up. It, of course, it didn't open up when it should have opened up because the pandemic happened. They pushed everything, but it happened to be one of the first movies to come back. So I don't feel like it was fair in a sense because they were judging it based on like the theater going, which a lot of people were still not like feeling comfortable to go back to theaters, and the theaters still could not fill up the rooms. Plus, it was also streaming. So if you had to choose between going to a movie theater and streaming at that time, I saw it in the movie theater, right, as well as I saw it streaming. But people I would think would choose streaming, because of the sensitivity of the whole entire pandemic situation, not knowing still what was happening. And this and that. And what I know that a lot of people, at least in my circle and the people that I would talk to and stuff like that, what they would do, they would get together have like little In the Heights parties at their houses to watch the film, with a group of people and stuff like that. They felt more comfortable that way. And see, that's another way that you don't get to count the views and things like that, because especially with Latinos, and I'm sure the Black community and underrepresented communities, we're very family oriented. We love having friends over. We love, that community, that connection and stuff like that. So that's a celebratory movie for people to see together. And that wasn't counted for, obviously, I would think. because you can't count that, like you're streaming it at a house and you have like 20 people there. You're not counting those 20 people that went to the theater, right? Or that are streaming it or whatever. So that's a very, good situation that kind of like, it made me really sad because In the Heights got a lot of like, it didn't get the best of press because of that. And, the other issue, that was spoken about, not enough, Black Latinos, dark-skinned Latinos in the film, and all that stuff, which that's, of course, another conversation as well, and I also understand that point. And I see it also, I'm with the people, that I understand the people that spoke, about that, especially Washington Heights being a community that has, a lot of darker skinned Latinos and stuff like that. But I also understand, I also know, I'm not going to say I understand in this case, but I know Hollywood and I know how Hollywood works. And there's a lot of people that make decisions behind the movie. Right. So it's not, I don't think it was Lin-Manuel Miranda's fault. Let's just say, you know what I mean? Like he'll have say, but there's other people, some people that might be even more powerful than him that have a bigger say that might not, that probably don't even know anything about Washington Heights, but that want to make money the way that they think movies should be made. Movies make money, out of this, a particular film, right? So it's a very interesting, it's a conversation that should be had, and I think it's, those conversations are always important. But if we get deeper into the root of it, I personally don't believe it, was just a Lin-Manuel Miranda thing, because I know he had to apologize and this and that, and he did it probably, because he understood, right? But I think that it's that deeper issue that we're all, battling with, and we're educating, let's just say, right?
Well, that's definitely, part of what I've been trying to do with our audience is make, and that's part of the difficulty of, so this show that we're trying to bring alive, casting, it takes a lot of money to produce a television show. And people don't realize that who is in it has everything to do with how much money you can raise. The two are tied together. And when the money people have a certain idea in their mind, that's what they're willing to fund. If you move away from that idea, they're not as willing to fund that idea because that idea they don't know. So that's why you see the same kind of things, the people with the same kind of look, complexion, everything.
Very true. Even in our own communities, right?
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
Do you feel it? Because I see it with our own community. I always see that they tend to cast the same types of Latinas or Latinos, and it's like, it's the same type all the time, which it's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, again, it's part of that deeper issue.
Right.
And
I don't think people realize that, how much the money is tied into the casting piece of it. And again, this is why I think educating the public on the importance of, of owning our own narratives and being able to control the process from beginning to end is key to bringing better, diverse films into Hollywood. Because until that changes, you're going to still get that monolith of, even when you get quote unquote diverse characters, those so-called diverse characters are all going to be kind of the same, because that's what the people who are financing it, and that's what they're comfortable with. And anytime you go outside of the comfort zone, the money that you're able to raise it gets lots of difficulty. But I don't want to get too into finance, because you know me. We start talking about money. That's my thing, because that's the major hurdle that we're facing now. But some good points you raised there, and let me ask you another question. So one of the loudest and most consistent requests, we've talked about it between ourselves with this time, is that when those that make it to the top, to send the elevator back down. I've heard that phrase used quite a bit in the last year or so. Can you just briefly explain to our audience what that phrase means, and tell us, do you think that, you're seeing more of that now? Has it improved? Or what do you think the status is? Are people sending the elevator back down more?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, sending the elevator back down means that when you make it at some point, in your career, that you have more of, I guess, more power or more of a say or more of an opportunity to give other people opportunities. Bring the elevator back down, bring people up with you, that's how I feel like it should be, as we continue to live life and in the circle of life, right? And when this journey of life for anything, not just the entertainment industry. Now, now, Gregory, do you want me to talk about it just pertaining to, the Latino community, or like in general?
From what you've seen, for your perspective, for the Latino community, do you see that happening in the Latino community?
A tiny bit. I cannot say 100% yes, but somewhat. Let's just say that's the best one to describe that question, somewhat. Because yes, there, and the thing is, and again, it's a conversation that it's another deeper conversation. I feel like our community as a whole has not been as developed in Hollywood, and we don't have as much star power or producing power, with people in those levels that are us, right? Or people in executive roles and things like that are able to give those opportunities, right? And you don't often see too many of the big stars bringing those elevator downs, because they're still, I believe, they're still like, trying to get their own work or trying to, keep their own thing going, so I've heard, sometimes or whatever. But, and then but I see people also like in the Black community, like Lena Waithe and Ava DuVernay, which I admire, right? That I've seen them so many times bringing that elevator down, to the Black community, to women, to LGBTQ, and stuff like that. And I love that, and I have a personal opinion about all of that. I feel that you don't have to be like at that level of like Lena Waithe or Ava DuVernay, to bring the elevator down, to be like a known person like that. You could do that, I feel like, at any time. And you could be a person at any position, that can bring that elevator down, because I feel, I feel like I've been a good example of that. I feel like I bring the elevator down since, I've been bringing that elevator down for a very, very long time. Now I have now people know me a bit because of Latino Filmmakers Network and stuff like that. And I produce films and this and that. But even prior to that, when I would get an opportunity that could benefit other people, I would always give people opportunities. If I was able to make a movie, right, because I had funding for the movie or whatever, even if it was a short film, I brought people on board and gave people opportunities, right? all this time, even prior to Latino Filmmakers Network, I see audition opportunities or other colleagues that are filmmakers reach out, or producers that they need things. I reach out to people that come to my mind, and I give those opportunities. And now with Latino Filmmakers Network, it's just a bigger platform to continue to give those opportunities. And I feel like, and I do it out of my own goodwill, because I haven't gotten paid, to up until this point, to do what I do with Latino Filmmakers Network. And prior to even not having the whole Latino Filmmakers Network thing, when I was also like a talent in this world, writing, directing, acting at the beginning, producing, I was always very conscious and open to give people opportunities. That has always been inside of me. And if anything, I even left the acting side thing aside after I saw all the stereotypes and things like that was not fulfilling me, as an actor here. And I started to focus behind the camera as a writer, director, and producer, and just focused on that to be able to give other people opportunities.
Right.
Because I was thinking about myself in the sense like, oh yeah, I want to see like, better characters, maybe a better character that I can play. Right. But I have so many friends that are going through the same struggles from so many different backgrounds and things like that. And I feel like behind the camera, I have a better opportunity of telling those stories that are not out there, of giving people more opportunities, more jobs, so, and then again, with Latino Filmmakers Network, I've worked my ass off putting this whole organization together, and along the way, there's been other amazing people that have also been a part of the organization and have volunteered their time and this and that. But, my goal in the end, my goal was to bring visibility and opportunity to the community, and then to underrepresented talents, which is what we've done with the New Normal Reading series, but it's been another level of being able to provide those opportunities to people. Until this day, I get emails, people requesting certain talents, or whether someone in front of the camera or behind the camera. And I'm always very happy to recommend or to help out any way I can until we, and continuing, because that's what we're also doing Latino Filmmakers Network, continuing that brainstorm, myself and the people on my board, right, of how we're going to, what we're going to be doing with the organization to continue to give people opportunities, to continue to bring education, because education is also very important. Right. Many of us, like myself, come into this industry and we don't know how this industry works. And, I've been in this industry already for a long time, but there's always an opportunity that I'm still learning something. Right. And so education is very important, bringing that education, bringing that visibility, and bringing those opportunities. So yes, when it comes to bringing the elevator down, you don't have to wait to be that public figure. You could do it at any time. As just as a person that wants to do right, as a person that wants to give, as a person that wants to make it better, you could bring that elevator down at any time.
I think that's a very important point. And I know that there are people who are, aspiring to be in this industry who listen or watch this podcast. So I hope that they keep that in mind as they go forward. And, whenever you can, you don't have to be a Tyler Perry and Ava DuVernay or Lena Waithe, as you said, but just take advantage of every opportunity you can to open the door for someone else. Because after all, that's how you got there, because somebody opened the door for you. That's what we all need to remember is, when you get through the door, hold it open. Okay. So we've talked, we always talk a lot about the work that the tremendous work that you've done. And as I've said before on the first interview that you did, folks, if you've never, you have no idea how much work goes into trying to pull an organization together like this, and especially when you're having multiple events in multiple places, it's a tremendous personal sacrifice. But you have, Maylen, you have your own projects that you want to work on, and things that that are near and dear to your heart. Can you tell us a little bit about something you've been working on that you're trying to bring forward?
Well, the other thing that I started also doing with Latino Filmmakers Network, speaking about bringing the elevator down and giving opportunities and stuff, is jumping on board as a producer on films made by talented Latino filmmakers, just to kind of like show people that we have a lot of talent out there that hasn't even been discovered or recognized. And they have, some of them have been here already for a long time, doing the work and putting in the time, yet there's no maybe they're not represented, or they don't know how to get their film to that next level, or it's a lot of things that it entails, right? But I've had the pleasure to jump on board several of those films, to bring to light some great work made by our community. And with that, I also started at the beginning of the shutdown. I started with another very talented filmmaker and producer, a production company, a micro studio called Multi Studio. And we kind of like put the word out that we were looking for scripts. We were focusing on commercially viable scripts, that we are able to do on a lower budget, meaning that maybe the larger percentage takes place in one location, right? But the something that we're good at, myself and Miguel, who is my partner with this, is creating projects that look nicer and bigger than what the cost really was, right? So we found two scripts, a thriller and a comedy, that we really enjoyed, that we've been developing since then, and kind of like, packaging it, right, to get it to that level of, so we could get it, ready to make and stuff like that. Also, within all that time, Miguel, who is also a very talented director himself, during shutdown, Multi Studios did a short film that he directed, that he had a script for, and he directed, because we wanted to like show people what we're able to do, right, with our company. So the sets were built inside of his house. His house literally looked like a sound stage, right? We had an amazing production designer that flew out from New York. His name is Vince, right? And he flew out, and he did the sets inside the house. And then at the same time, to get those, because this movie takes place in Venezuela, so to get the exteriors and little things that he needed, Miguel literally crossed the border into Venezuela to get those shots, which, I mean, I wouldn't recommend anybody to do, but he does anything for the love of filmmaking. And, my hope was always that he just comes back alive and well and all that stuff. But anyway, he did it. And when the movie was pieced together, it's beautiful. If you see it, you would not believe what it was made for, or that we shot it inside a house. We built sets inside a house, and stuff like that. It's a beautiful film that right now, that short film, De Monica, is being developed into a feature film. And we already have two established names in the industry that are also of the Latino community that are attached to that project, right? So right now we're just working on getting it, done and stuff like that. In the meantime, Miguel ended up going back to Venezuela because he had come up with an idea, an amazing idea for a film, and he hired a screenwriter over there, and he co-wrote with that screenwriter this idea. And he ended up in April going back, and he shot for about 18 days a feature-length film, out there again, doing what we tell people we're able to do at a lower budget, but when you see it, it looks like it costs millions of dollars. Like you wouldn't believe it. It's just stunning. Visually, it's stunning. Right now, it's currently in post, right? So again, now like we're working on taking that, finishing it up in post, getting a couple of finishing funds for the film also, and getting it out there again to present to people, to get distribution and all that stuff. But it's a beautiful story. It's a universal story. It just happens to take place in Venezuela, which is near and dear to Miguel's heart because he was born in Venezuela and he came to the States when he was very young, 12 or 13 years old, right? So that's why inside of him, he always wanted to film something there. Plus, he has a lot of great friends out there, and he had a crew out there also, right? He had people here and he had people there, right? Taking care of business. So that's Multi Studios is one of the, another form, I guess, of hopefully bringing to light more talents from our community, underrepresented communities. I still want to get back to my own writing and directing too, because I have my own voice, and I have my own unique voice that I feel like I cannot even leave this earth until I get like more of my work out there, and share with people my work also as an artist, and as a filmmaker. So, and I love writing. I think throughout the process of doing everything, I've come to, I don't mind like staying home and writing like all the time. I really love writing. But yeah, that's a little bit of everything. Plus, finding ways with my team on how to continue to bring Latino Filmmakers Network to the next level, and how to execute the programs that we're putting together, and the events and this and that, and getting more grant money to come to our way, so we are able to be able to like feed this organization, right. Keep it going, and do the stuff that we want to do. The great thing about Latino Filmmakers Network is that myself and everybody involved right now, we're all filmmakers. We whether we're producers or directors or production designers, we understand the business of filmmaking in that sense because we do it. And we also see where things lack, and we see how things can be improved. And so we find the things that have not been, executed already, or we come up with ideas based on things that are needed, to just continue again to, tell our stories, push the community forward, right. And stuff like that. So there's a lot of amazing things in the works that I feel are going to be benefiting not only the Latino community and underrepresented storytellers, but like filmmakers, and films. So if anyone wants to help, I'm always like, so if you could bring something, whether it's grant money or give us a hand, and and you're like, and you're a genuine person, you genuinely believe in the cause, because those are the people that I have working with us, people that right. We're filmmakers, but we genuinely are in it to do good, right?
Right.
Then those are the people that we want on our team,
Well, definitely, I can stress to those who are listening and are watching this podcast, you heard Maylen's words. We're going to talk a little bit before we sign off about how you can get in touch with the Latino Filmmakers Network later on, but definitely get involved. I would say that that's the most important thing. Hope is not a strategy. You've got to actively work towards making it better. And I think you're seeing today a perfect example of working towards making things better. So we're glad to hear that you're still working on your own personal works and projects, and of course, we'll support you and cheer you on as you try to.
I need more cheering on for me to like do my thing, because I always get so caught up on everybody else's, projects. Because it's, when you're making a movie or whatever, it's just very, very time consuming that sometimes it's like, oh, this deadline passed, or this, this thing that I wanted to write, like I wasn't able to accomplish it by this time, or, like it just, it's everything's so time consuming, know?
I want to, before we run out of time, definitely want to talk about Father of the Bride. And let me just ask, what were your thoughts of Mr. Andy Garcia, Ms. Gloria Estefan, and that entire cast? I believe it was written by Matt Lopez, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I thought that was it. He did a great job. He did a fantastic job. What were your thoughts?
Okay, well, I mean, I started posting about it on Latino Filmmakers Network like from the beginning when I found out about it. And, like I've never been like a huge fan myself of remakes because, of course, I'm like, wow, there's so many original ideas out there. Why do we keep remaking classics? Right. I never saw the original Father of the Bride. I think Elizabeth Taylor was in that one, and I should watch it because I love classics. I did see the one with Steve Martin when I was a young girl, which I loved, So to me, I don't think I knew what to expect because you think it's a remake, right? So you don't know what to expect. But to me, what was exciting was having Andy Garcia, Gloria Estefan, and the rest of the cast, the center, the lead actors happen to be a Latino family. And that to me was really exciting. And not only is, remember, it's not only the father of the bride side that's Latino, it's also the groom side is also right. Latino, and it's Cuban and Mexican. And that's the beauty of it because it brings two different communities and cultures together. And I love that type of stuff because that's the type of stuff that I even write, bringing different people together. And the clash of comedy in there is always beautiful, right? So yeah, I was like, I didn't know what to expect, but I was excited, and I'm always about supporting the community, like no matter what. So I started posting about it, since, from the beginning when I found out. I got to see a cut before it was released, which, So I got to see the cut, and I got to connect with Gaz, the director, Matt, the writer, and Paul, the producer, which are lovely people, by the way. Wonderful, wonderful people. I was just full of emotions. That's, I think, what I could say. The first time I saw it, I was just full of emotions. I left the theater like with tears in my eyes. I mean, I love the ending. It just brought joy and a lot. I was left with emotions. I also had a very personal connection to this, because, well, number one, it takes place in Miami, right? I know some of the actors in the film, right? I've had the opportunity to hang out with Andy Garcia. I've had the opportunity to meet several times Gloria Estefan, who's a beautiful person. And then one of the characters who plays the uncle, El Tío, and the actor's name is Ruben Rabasa. When I did my second short film ever, I did a romantic comedy, right? And he played the father in that film.
Oh, wow.
So to see him in this commercial movie made by Warner Brothers, Plan B, and all these wonderful people, it just brought so much emotions. And it took me back to that time because we wanted to make it into a feature, and, we had people interested and this and that. And going through the journey of like Hollywood and everything that I've had to fight for to be able to make, my things come to life. it was quite difficult because again, like my stories, the ones that I write are universal, but my leading families happen to be Latino, right?
Right.
Because that's true to my voice and to who, my
Absolutely.
background. And that's what they say, write what's authentic to you and stuff like that. And that's still, I did these things when diversity and inclusion wasn't even like a word in Hollywood, right? So yeah, I was full of a lot of emotion. So I felt it was very personal. I saw it like 4 times on the big screen. I got to see it at the premiere and with like an audience, and I loved watching it with an audience because the reaction. I mean, number one, listen, I love theater. I love going to the movie theaters. I hope that people get back to going more to the movie theaters because it's just an experience. And if you see it with people and you feel those reactions, it's just such a wonderful experience. It's fine to see it at home and stuff like that, but there are more distractions at home sometimes. If you're not seeing it with other people, maybe you're not getting something. And sometimes you miss things on the smaller screen than you do on the big screen when you get to see it big, right?
Right.
That I love going back to movie theaters to see classics that were before my time, that I catch things that I never even caught while I was watching it on TV,
Right.
So it's a beautiful thing to go back to the movie theater. I kind of wished that Father of the Bride opened up in theaters. It would have been really cool to see what the pull and the reaction would have been like, the box office and all that stuff. It's a universal story. It just happens to have Latinos in the forefront. Right. And what I do need to say about this Father of the Bride, people. So going back to that whole remake thing, after watching the movie, it wasn't a remake for me. It just happens to have the title, Father of the Bride, and the idea behind it. The idea, the universality of a father and the daughter that's getting married and that relationship and all that stuff. But it's not the Steve Martin remake. No. I'm pretty sure it's not even like the remake from the first one. It's a completely different story with a twist. And I love that the female characters are like badasses, like they're strong, they're the kind of women I like and I hang out with too. You know what I mean? It's like, right. It's refreshing, right? I mean, Latinas are badasses too. So I mean, women in general. So it's nice, that there were so many different refreshing, it was up to date with the times, but it was a completely different spin from the Steve Martin version, which, was a completely, I feel it was a little bit more of a different genre too, because this one tended to be more, it was really funny throughout the whole entire movie, but had more of that dramedy also in right. it, that those moments that make you feel, right? And stuff like that. So I highly recommend it. I was very happy. It did very well on HBO, streaming on HBO, I think. I posted about this too, that the community was just ecstatic about the fact that I think it was like the film that has done the best or number one streaming film, on HBO. And that to us is huge, huge when this is like what we want. I think now, like we should continue supporting the film by, all of us that saw it, at least the people in my circles that saw it, like everybody loved it, let's give it high ratings on Rotten Tomato and like, on other platforms and continue to spread the word and tell people, this is not like the remake that you're expecting because it's an original piece that happens to have the title and the concept of the story, right? So yeah, I think we should continue supporting it, and because it's a romantic comedy, it's a fun movie, it's a universal story, and I think Andy Garcia was brilliant in it. Yes. He's a great actor. I was very I thought Gloria Estefan, who's typically not an actress, she's an entertainer, a singer. I thought I liked her.
She was great.
I really liked her in it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the cast as well. And El Tío, Ruben Rabasa, he's, every time he would come up, like, I thought everyone was like laughing every time he would say something, So bravo to the team, to Gaz, to Paul, to Matt, Jeremy,
I'll join you.
and Warner Brothers and stuff like that, because thank you, for making this film. And and hopefully we get more of these going.
Yeah. I highly recommend it, and you guys know me. If it's not genuine, I wouldn't fake it. My praise is definitely earnest and it's well deserved. This film touched me. It really did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I was glad to see it. So as we wrap things up here, I guess the last question I'll ask you, if someone, after hearing all this, now we've got them super motivated and say, I love Maylen. I want to help. I want to, help make films. I want to be a part of this industry. How do I get in touch with the Latino Filmmakers Network? What should they do?
Okay, so follow us on social media. On Instagram is at Latino Filmmakers, Facebook Latino Filmmakers Network, and we also have Twitter. I think Twitter is at Royal Latinicity because Latino filmmaker was like taken or something. I think that's what it is still, but you can find it under Latino Filmmakers Network. And then definitely, if you go on the link in bio on Instagram, or if you just go online and you type latinofilmmaker.org, no S at the end, latinofilmmaker.org, it'll take you to the website, where you can see some of the stuff that we've done. And you most definitely want to sign up for the newsletter, so you could be updated with events that we have to sign up and this and that. Everything that we've done so far is free, for like the communities. Latino Filmmakers Network is about bringing visibility, opportunity, educating, our community, representing everybody. But we do it genuinely. We do it with good vibes, with a positive attitude, not just myself, but everybody that's involved, and we want everybody to succeed, and we want to continue to see our community and other underrepresented communities succeeding, so bring that vibe and, be a part of that.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get involved, we will also have these links on this podcast episode, as we did last time. We'll have links to her organization and how you can get in touch. Thank you so much for once again coming to our podcast, for spending time with us, enlightening us on the work that you're doing, and sharing your thoughts on how we can make a more diverse and inclusive entertainment industry. Our guest today has been Maylen Calienes, and we, as always, had a great conversation. I hope you all listening or watching enjoyed. And I will sign off for now and say bye until next time.
Adios. Bye. Have a great one. Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you.